Everybody, I'm here today with Lisa Boudreau, and Lisa Boudreau is the owner-operator of La Goélette Pépé. And Lisa, I'm sure that this time last year you weren't expecting that you would be sitting down talking about what we're going to talk about today.
No.
Because the pandemic was really not in view at that time.
Yeah.
So I know it has to have affected your business. I mean, your business, you have a lot of things in your business that are provided, or you're helping with the local artisans and all of those things that not a lot of the other businesses do. It's kind of its own unique little niche. So how are you making out?
Well, it's been rather a difficult transition, to say the least. We had sort of come from 2 years of having had a little bit of an effect on our income. So in 2019, the sidewalks were put into the town, which is a great project, which I totally support. But it meant pylons in front of our place from April until November. So we really lost most of the summer. And then we had to go through the winter months, which are always a lot slower, because although we're not totally tourism, we are a good segment of tourism that comes through our doors. So having said that, we were looking at March. Everyone, I think, was excited about, the facades were complete. This little downtown section looked really great. We were looking forward to a great year. And the unspeakable happened. No one can predict something like a pandemic. And no one can prepare for it because, thankfully it doesn't happen at least any more than every 100 years, it seems. So we are the lucky, shop owners, merchants, to be part of this and have to learn to grow in it. So it was extremely difficult to navigate those waters. Information was slow in coming, and it was changing by the minute, and everyone still is, extremely careful about what they do and want to make sure that they're safe all the time. And sometimes people, communicate well, and sometimes they don't. So, we kind of have to learn to navigate those waters too. Long and short is that we're still here, as are a lot of businesses that have started with us. And luckily in Richmond County, I can't think of too many that are not, that were at the beginning. But it's not the same ball game as it was before, and we're still trying to learn how to play that game.
So how is your staff adapting?
Well, we went from a staff of 3.5 to 4 to a staff of, 1.5 to 2. Brian and I go in and we do what needs to be done. We help out, we pitch in. Some of the staff left voluntarily, others left, because there was just no work. So we've had to really manage our staff well, and we've had to try to hang on to our key players as much as we could, and offer as many services as we could. So at the onset, we had reduced our hours significantly, and everyone went home. The government was working out the subsidies, so we were trying to wait to see what that would look like. And then we realized we needed to offer at least a minimum service, because we are an essential service with the gas bar. So not everyone can do 24-hour or wants to. So we had to bring in staff to be able to manage that and keep the place afloat.
Yes, and having a 24-hour gas bar has really been a benefit to me, and I'm sure to most of the community. So we do appreciate that.
Yeah, well, thank you. It was not an inexpensive endeavor, and much as it can allow us to close the doors a little earlier and know the service is still there, there's always some upkeep and some maintenance to be done. So it's not totally trouble-free, but it is of benefit. Yeah,
nothing is ever trouble-free.
No, I don't think so.
nothing is ever trouble-free. So now I do know that you had another business on the go. You were starting, and can you tell me a little bit about that one?
Well, the beef jerky business has good prospects, and we've have a fully equipped micro processing facility in the Third Bay at La Goélette. It was to open by July, August of this past year. It's been a long time in coming, but a lot of key factors took part in that. One of which was COVID, because it's hard to start something during a COVID year. But there's also a lot of regulations that need and licenses that need to be in place. So we're still working through that. Some of those things were slowed down because of COVID. The visits didn't happen for months during that time period. So we're still challenging that to see if we're going to be able to bring it to fruition. We're hopeful. And we're hopeful that the Department of Agriculture and the good folks there are still there when we're ready to go. It's looking promising, but it's going to take some time. Yeah.
Well, I think that it must have been difficult. Here you are, in the middle of a bad time anyway, and trying to get something new off the ground. It must have been kind of depressing. It had to have been depressing.
Well, it was discouraging. Certainly, it does play on the psyche. Mm-hmm. There's no doubt. So, I mean, you know, where you're usually full of piss and vinegar, it certainly does put you in your place. A pandemic. It does dampen things. You can't be as optimistic as you'd like, because there's too many factors that are unknowns. Mm-hmm. And normally when you go into a new business venture, you can do your SWOT analysis, you can do your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats pretty easily, but no one can foresee something like a pandemic. And it's very difficult to know exactly to what degree that affects it. So one of the things we learned was that one of the larger meat processing plants actually went under because of, or closed for a period of time due to the pandemic. So that severely impacted the amount of beef on the market. And of course, that means the price went through the roof. And you never know how the price is going to normalize after that, even though you may have lots of product on the market. It doesn't always go back to where it should be. Or you don't know how stable the market is to be able to offer a decent price product to be able to process with. You don't know when the next spike will happen, if there's another closure somewhere else that will impact. So those are factors that you would not foresee and you would not think. As a rule of thumb, pricing should maintain fairly stable. And in this case, it doesn't. So, you have to roll with those punches as well.
So were you able to get any government assistance at all?
Yes, we received the small business loans, the impact loans, which are sitting, ready for when we really need to dig in. But like everything else, a loan is not something that I really want to have at this time, because I have enough to have to worry about and repay. But certainly the wage subsidy has been extremely helpful. I think it's fairly done. It took a little while to unroll these, so some people unfortunately found themselves in precarious situations before they were able to, and then may or may not have been able to dig themselves out. But it certainly helps to know that if you're impacted somewhat, that there's a formula out there that can return some of the salary paid. It keeps people employed. It keeps them off the EI system. And whether, when you're in a pandemic, I guess when the government looks at these types of things, they figure, well, if we're going to pay it out in social assistance or EI, we may as well give it to the businesses, try to keep them going, try to keep the economy going, try to keep people working. It takes, out of one pot or the other. But no doubt there'll be some changes in the future when all of it becomes stable, to look at the debt that was incurred also.
Well, it's a learning experience for everybody.
Yeah.
Including the government, obviously.
Exactly, yeah.
Although I must say that I thought the government behaved quite well.
Yeah. I think so too. I said more than once that I was very proud to be Canadian, and more than once that I was very, very happy to be Nova Scotian. And, I think overall they did the best that they could do in light of what they had. Criticism is easy, but you know, it's also a very, very hard pill to swallow, and a lot of things happened in Nova Scotia in 2020, and
Oh,
some of them were as bad as the pandemic, certainly, and they had to swallow that too. So
yeah, it was a lot.
it was a lot.
It
Yeah.
was definitely a lot. So how do you stay motivated?
Well, it's not always easy, but I think self-care is important. I think we have to take the time to relax and change our brains and our mindsets. We can't always think 24/7 on one problem. I do find that if I become overwhelmed, I'm not as efficient anyway. So you know, there's no point. I find being more involved in the business. I can say that, you know, it might seem funny, I'm there every day, but I'm in my office. But actually being in the kitchen and doing some of the baking and the meal prep and really planning things has helped me to become more grounded in what the business does every day and how it works, and also to be more in touch with the staff. So those are some of the positive things that have occurred. Um, it doesn't, I'm an early morning person, so to get up at 4 a.m. is no big deal for me. But I have to remember that I can't be there till 5 because that's a 13-hour day,
Yeah.
right? That's kind of what I've had to learn. Yeah.
So has anything new come out of this? Like any new way of doing anything? Like,
Well, you know, Becky, like everyone else, we did the online menu
right,
and some of
right.
the online ordering. But what I've learned, and I've said this numerous times, it's good for people like, for example, Starbucks or Tim Hortons to have an online system where you can order your drink before you come in, and then you can come in and do that. But there's a cost to that. And you have to have a critical mass in order to make it feasible. So for small businesses, whether it be a coffee shop like mine or another food service or any merchandise that's ordered online, every one of the ones that do it, we don't amass to the numbers of the amounts of chain stores and how they can so savvy to be able to do it. So what I've always said was, if we're going to have an online store, it should really be an online store of independents that can actually get together and focus and push their products, and their products help push someone else's, and vice versa. It's never really happened. So for example, Cape Breton could have an online store, Richmond County could have an online store, and the critical mass of those vendors could make a difference. But to do it alone, we've all tried. Everyone said, you should be online, you should be selling. But, you know, you're not going to open your feeds and see my store there as often as you're going to see the other ones, because they can pay for it. They've got the marketing folks, you know, all in queue. They have a department, they're funded. For me to even just take care of a small Facebook page, it can be a 24-hour bit just for one, you know? To respond, to make sure that everything is put in at the right time, to take those do that learning curve. It's not as simple as you would think. So
No.
that's one thing.
And not everybody is as internet savvy.
Correct.
You know,
Yeah.
I know that we live in an older community here.
Yeah.
And a lot of times with the younger folk, I call them younger folk now, I find that they don't realize that a lot of the older people don't understand technology and social media. And I find that they're putting all their eggs in one basket.
Yeah.
You know,
It is true, but you would be surprised, I'm
yeah.
sure, how many are
Yeah.
on Facebook.
Yeah.
But to be, just for someone like me to be able to
Right.
understand how Facebook works.
Right.
And by the time I get a little grasp on it, it changes
Of
it
course.
as far as how I can use it as
Yeah.
a marketing tool. So it's not, no, it's no one thing that can do it. And then, of course, during a COVID year, the money is not there
No.
to do the traditional marketing that you might like to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's, you're kind of stuck with what you've got.
Well, I think your idea about having everybody together in one place, I think that's a fantastic idea.
Well, they could be segmented down by types of sectors. So the crafters could be in one spot, and the food service could be another, and the other service industry, retail. Then it gives you an idea of what the location has to sell
And what's there?
and
Yeah,
what is there.
you're
So when
right.
they actually come to visit, it's a two-sided thing. They can say, hey, you know what? There's this little shop. I saw it online. It's actually in the nitty-gritty back of West Bay, and they do this and this and this, right?
Right.
So, yeah.
It also actually it could result in product sharing.
Yes.
I mean, supporting each other.
Yeah.
I think that's a great idea,
Yeah.
Lisa.
Well, let's pitch it again.
Wish somebody would pick that up.
Maybe the new council.
Maybe the new council will. You never know.
You never know.
Well, they seem pretty savvy.
Yes, they do.
Yes,
Yeah,
they do
I
indeed.
think they are.
So I would say perhaps, right?
Yeah.
So what do you think? When do you think it's going to go back to somewhat normal? What's your guess? What's your hope?
Well, I'm hopeful that, by the fall of 2021, or now they're saying maybe the spring, they're starting to talk about getting some people inoculated. So I'm hopeful that if we can get that vaccine in as many people as we can, that maybe they'll start to feel a little bit more comfortable. But it's going to take a while because, people, they're just not going to jump on a plane or go on a cruise ship like they would have, or an all-inclusive resort as they would have done in the past without thinking about it at all. It puts a bit of a different spin on what it means to be in contact. I'm hopeful that places like Richmond County, like Île-Madame, will be of value. That people will see places where you can put your arms out like this and not touch anyone, and you can go to the local beach and be totally by yourself anytime, any day of the week. That those places are worth coming with your family and enjoying some time outside and relatively safe.
I was speaking to somebody last week who has been here since the pandemic began, and he's a lovely person. He and his wife have been here since last March.
Yeah.
He was a doctor in Colorado, and
Oh.
a cancer doctor, and he went to work one day and realized that he had to retire on the same day
Oh.
because he had some issues, he
Yes.
compromised health
Yeah.
issues. And he's become one of my my friends. I really like him.
Yeah.
I really like this couple. They're beautiful
Yeah.
people. But he said something that makes me think that Île-Madame in Cape Breton, but Île-Madame especially, because it's an island off an island, is a very desirable place to be.
Mm-hmm.
So something tells me that when this starts to lift, Île-Madame is going to see an influx of visitors.
Yeah.
Because Dr. Aronson said to me, how could I be unhappy in the safest place in the world?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I think properties have been selling sight unseen.
Oh, yes.
So I think that's that we know.
Oh, yes, I know.
And I think yes, that people do. I know that people I graduated with that have gone away, that have been very successful, that probably never thought about really coming back home, and now starting to say, well, if you see anything around there that looks like it's relatively reasonable and in good shape, could you let me know, because
Yeah.
I'd be interested. So
And so
there's a lot of that too.
So the positive of that, the positive of the pandemic, to me, has been seeing these new people just showing up, and once they're out of isolation, they kind of look around as if to say, "Wow, where are we?"
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's going to bring new ideas, economic growth, anything, and new ideas and economic, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Makes for a better community
Yeah,
if we open our
absolutely.
minds and our hearts.
Yeah, I
right?
really had a lot of hopes for 2020. I really thought it was going to be. I can feel the beat. I know that the especially the tourism community. I can see that really augmenting itself, and the pandemic put a big accent to that. But I don't think it's gone.
No.
All the efforts that have been made. I know that Destination Cape Breton has been working extremely hard with really promoting local. They've had more content for Richmond County than ever before in the last year and a half, and that's going to pay off. There's no two ways about it. But also just the idea about staying more local when you travel is also, the domestic tourism, I think, is going to have a larger impact. You're going to be people, this past summer because we couldn't really go out of Nova Scotia for a period of time. And then when the Atlantic bubble opened, we could have gone to PI and New Brunswick. And we always go to PI. So this year I said, no, I've never really done the Sunrise Trail. I want to go that way. And then we took a trip and we went the sisters trip, and we went all around Digby and the South Shore and
that's a nice trip. That's a long drive.
A long drive, but you know what? It's a nice spot.
Beautiful.
I had gone, but not to do it just leisurely, and it was really quite nice. I was very glad to have done it. So, it had that type of positive impact. More people than ever had pulled off the highway, driving from Sydney on their way to God knows where, because they had never been to Ilmadan. And I think 1 week I had 6 couples that I just happened to say, oh, where are you driving from? Sydney. You've never been here before? Never. I didn't realize it was like this. So it's been really, it's been good in that sense.
Yeah, it's making us realize how lucky we actually are to live in a beautiful province like we do.
Absolutely.
We all take it for granted.
Yeah, absolutely. No, there are worse places to live than Ilmadan.
Yes.
And for many, many people, they'd love to be here. So
oh, yes.
We're going to carry that torch.
Yes, I know. How many times do you look on Facebook and you'll see somebody, I wish I was home.
Yeah, exactly.
People that have lived away from here forever and ever.
Yeah. Well, it will be a year since I've seen my youngest daughter.
Wow.
And others can say the same. I met a gentleman walking today that said it will be a year on the 22nd of January since he's seen his wife. So,
Oh my.
It's tough. But as long as they're all fine and they're doing okay, we know that this is a short-term thing, hopefully, for a long-term gain. So.
Well, Lisa, I'm hoping that you're right, and I'm hoping that when this is all sort of over, because I believe we'll have to wear masks for some time to come. Perhaps if we had have listened to our grandmothers, then they said, wash your hands, wash your hands, wash your hands.
Absolutely.
I mean, they had lived through pandemics, so they knew what we didn't know until now.
Yeah.
Well, I think that, you're, I'm so happy to see that you're keeping the spirit up, okay? And I do know that you walk a lot, and I'm sure that helps.
Yeah.
But, good luck. I hope it all comes through, and I hope that we have a great big opening up
a big opening up party.
That would be great. Great big street dance.
Yes, that would be fantastic.
Love the street dance when it's all over. So thank you for coming.
Well,
and if there's anything I can do to help you, you let me know, okay?
Thank you, Becky.
All
Much
right.
appreciated.